In the last section, we installed Node.js on our local machine. We're now going to install a tool called Create React App that's going to be used to generate a new project. So let's start that up right away. I'm going to change on over to my terminal, and I'm going to run the command npm install -g create-react-app, like so. And I'll go ahead and run it. Now, on my machine, it's going to install very quickly. On yours, it might take a couple of seconds if you're installing this for the first time. I want to take a quick little pause here to tell you a little bit about this command that we just executed, because we're going to run commands like that very frequently throughout this course. All right, here we go. So the first word on there was npm. Technically, or I should say officially, npm doesn't actually stand for anything, but you can imagine that it stands for Node Package Manager. When I say officially, it's because the project itself says that npm doesn't stand for anything, but again, it stands for Node Package Manager. The Node Package Manager can be used to install tons of different open source JavaScript packages onto your local computer to power projects that you are putting together. In this case, we reached out to npm to download a package called Create React App and install it on our local computer. The npm command, or the npm program, has many different sub-commands associated with it. In this case, we wanted to install a package, so we referenced the install subcommand. After that, we then put in the -g flag. This flag indicates that we want to install this package globally on our computer. We will very frequently use the -g flag anytime that we are installing a command line tool, or essentially some program that we want to be able to run from our terminal. We are going to also see what happens when we install things without the -g flag later on, but for right now, we're just going to use -g. And then finally, we listed out the name of the package that we wanted to install. The name was Create React App. This is a very popular package that is used to generate new React projects. So now that we've installed this thing, we can use it to generate a new project. I'm going to make sure that I am inside of a workspace directory of sorts, and then I'll run the command create react app, and then the name of the project that I want to generate. In our case, we are going to learn more about exactly how JSX works, so I'm going to call my project simply JSX. And I'll hit enter, and that's going to start to generate my project. Now, before we move on, a real quick note I want to mention. So you're going to find in this course, there are many different ways to do just about everything. We've already seen that we could write a tiny React app over on CodePen, and clearly we can also write a React app on our local machine as well. As much as I possibly can throughout this course, I'm going to highlight some of the different ways that some people choose to go through different steps. And doing that npm install of Create React App and then using it to generate a project is already one location where some people do things a little bit differently. If you go and read the Create React App official documentation, they're going to show you a slightly different process for generating a project than what I just showed you. So in the official documentation, you're going to see that they say that you need to run npx, Create React App, and then the name of the project. And you can run this command without having to first go through the npm install. So essentially, if you take this route right here, you run one command instead of two. Now, the only reason that I didn't show you this alternate fashion, even though it's slightly technically easier, is that npx is a command line tool that only started to be installed with versions of npm from version 5.2 and higher. And it is entirely possible and even incredibly likely that you have a version of npm earlier than 5.2 on your computer. So I could have showed you this way, but it's very likely that you would have just very quickly ran into an error. Now, if you want to, you could always update your version of npm and Node, and then you can generate a project this way. Just so you know, at the end of the day, there's absolutely no effective difference between the method I just showed you and using npx. It's essentially just the difference between running one command or two. All right, so if I flip back over to my terminal, it looks like my project has finished installing. Now, you'll notice a bunch of text here. If I scroll up a little bit, you might see something like this right here, something that says added 1,782 packages. So in order to generate this project and write a tiny React application, we had to install 1,700 separate packages onto our local computer. Now, that might immediately seem a little bit shocking. If you think about it, back on CodePen a second ago, we created a tiny React application after only adding in exactly 2 library files. Remember, we searched for React and React DOM, and we added them into our CodePen. So why were we able to get away with only 2 files over there, but on our local machine, we have to install 1,700 separate packages? Well, let's take a quick pause right here. When we come back to the next section, I'm going to tell you why we had to install so many packages, and it'll help you also understand why we are using this Create React App tool at all. So, quick pause, and I'll see you in just a minute.